Oh, hi. You caught me about to draw. Did that seem natural? Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to do some drawing today, specifically inking. Um, so, we have a comic book page I'm working on slowly but surely, but we're not going to start with this. If you were with my stream on Thursday, you saw me drawing a couple commissions, the sketch parts. Do this one, and do this one. So we're going to focus on inking today. So we're going to ink these commissions up. If we have time, we're going to ink the comic page a little bit. Or depending on how I feel, if I'm really digging these commission pieces, maybe we'll forgo the inking and do some coloring. So let's get busy. So first, let's get our inking pen. And then next, I gotta make sure I have some music playing for me. You guys always have some music playing, but I can't hear what's being broadcast, so I have to play my own stuff. In Thursday's stream, we were talking a little bit about Sum 41, so that's what I'm listening to today. I feel I need some punk music, I guess. Whoops. I want to make sure you're on the right layer. There we go. Now, if you've been watching my streams, you might notice that I always like to start inking with the hair. It's always because, at least for me, I can't speak for others, but I like to start with very loose lines to kind of almost like warm up, get used to inking and line weight and the tools that I'm using. Because even when we're working digitally, different inking tools, like the pencil tool doesn't act the same as the pen tool, which doesn't act the same as the airbrush tool. So if I've been penciling a lot, and then I switch over to inking, I need to kind of get used to the inking brush or inking pen. And a good way to do that is with some hair, because hair is nice and loose. So, as always, while I'm working here, if you guys have any questions, feel free to hop in the chat there, ask a question. If you want to know what tools I'm using, what brush I'm using, why I'm doing anything in particular, technique-wise. Save often. I don't see many of you guys in the chat there. Maybe noon on a Saturday is too early for you guys. Maybe I should do my streams a little bit later in the afternoon once everyone's woken up. But that's okay. I'm just gonna have a good time here drawing. I'm gonna pull a Bob Ross. Just have a good old time drawing. Might have thrown some of you guys off, because usually I start my stream a little bit later, not a ton later, but about usually closer to 1 than noon. So maybe a lot of you guys were expecting to come watch at 1. I shocked you guys, started earlier. So I'm going to cheat a little. I'm going to switch over flowers. That's what I'm looking for. What flower I'm looking for, I'm not quite sure. I want to put flowers in her hair, and frankly, I don't feel like drawing them. That's a good one. I like that. Let's have a look. I think that looks pretty good. What do you guys think? It's really hard for me when I'm inking here is because I love inking really rough like this. I love putting like a lot of hatchings and uh, just heavy dark shadows and uh, just a lot of kind of grit in the ink. But that doesn't really work when I'm drawing this very clearly very soft looking elf. If I don't want to throw too much like grit and cross hatching on there and kind of ruin that soft aesthetic that's going on here. But it's so hard to resist just throwing in all these cross hatches. I'm still not too tight with the inks. I still like, I'm sure you guys are noticing, Alright, let's get our face drawn up here. Or inked up, I should say. It's already drawn. I say as I start working on our waist. So how's everyone doing today? I know I'm not talking a ton. I'm focusing on inking. But that doesn't mean I don't want to talk to you guys. If you have something you want to chat about, please. Like on Thursday, I had a good time talking about Sum 41 and emo music. For instance, I like New Found Glory, but hate Good Charlotte. Actually, there was a band that sounded a lot like Good Charlotte. Oh, what was their name? I think it was called Mest. M-E-S-T. I know I saw them a few times in concert, not because I was a big Mest fan, but because they were opening for Goldfinger. And that's actually when I first saw Good Charlotte too. It was like Goldfinger, Good Charlotte, and Mest. Oops, this is all the same layer. Yeah, that's fine. Just merge these two layers. Let's transfer to a lower layer. Turn this into a color layer later. Color. So far, so good, I think. Cheekbones in. Right. Let's get to the body. The face looking pretty good. Yep, so let's get this body gone. Gone. Man, I need some more coffee. How are you guys doing? For me, this is kind of early. Noon on a Saturday. Alright, let's get going here. When you're inking, it doesn't matter if you're inking digitally or traditionally. You don't want to. I see this a lot, like short strokes like this. I know you can't see what I'm doing with my pen. Like I'm just kind of making these really short strokes, and you see how that kind of creates this really jagged line. So that's no good. And then the other thing I see a ton with digital drawing is people want to zoom like way in and just get a perfect line. And if it's not perfect, they'll go in and they'll get like try to get it just the perfectly clean line. Don't do that. You want to it's okay to zoom in, but you don't want to zoom in too far. And then you want to try to draw your lines with one stroke. So move your whole arm, move your whole hand, whatever it takes, but whatever line you're trying to draw, get that whole line in just one movement. Like that. Though admittedly, that wasn't a good one. Let's try that again. Like that. All right, this is coming along. Now it's okay when you are inking to not have a perfectly clean line. Personally, I like that aesthetic the best. I keep referencing it, but like when I do my comics, I really like rough inks. I think it looks really good. But even when I'm trying to draw a more soft character, like what I'm doing here, it's okay to not have a perfectly clean line. So when I'm kind of drawing this here, these lines aren't perfect. They're a little wobbly. But when I zoom out to like full size, can you notice that it's wobbly? Not really. So when you're inking, of course you want to try to ink as accurately and strongly as you can. But you don't. It's not something you have to stress about. If you're a little off, it's fine. It's not. Probably no one will even notice. But with that being said, you still want to try to do the lines in one stroke instead of a bunch of short strokes, because people will notice this jaggedness to the line. All right, so oh, I'm such a dingbat. You know, I created this layer here, this color layer, 4 colors, and then I started inking right on top of it. Oy. Alright, let's just merge these 2 layers. I don't know what I was thinking. You know what? I've been kind of trying to create these ridges of the corset here. A little bit of volume, but I think I like it better as just a line. So I'm going to change that up a little bit. Now, as usual, if you guys have any questions or just want to talk to me in the chat, please do. And if you guys aren't quite sure what I'm working on here, this is a commission. On Thursday's stream, I did just a lot of drawing. Drew a bunch of commissions. I'm gonna switch this up here. And now we are inking those commissions. So this is an original character. From Final Fantasy XIV, the character from that, or the player character from that game. So, now, all these blue squigglies, this is all going to be lace. I didn't want to pencil lace, I have a lace brush. So I wasn't going to waste my time trying to pencil lace in. Coming along, coming along. We're actually almost done inking here. Gonna get her legs done and get the texture for the lace in. So how we doing, everyone? Saturday afternoon. Been streaming for about a half hour. I don't know about you guys, but I hate drawing feet. Especially if I have to draw like details in the foot. If you see, like in my comic work, when I draw feet, I usually just kind of black them out, give them black shoes, put very little detail in them, because I do not like them. I'm not quite as bad as Rob Liefeld is with his drawing of feet, but I'm not a whole lot better. What do you think? I haven't put in the textures yet in the lace or the stockings. I think I can call her done. Put my signature in there. Whoops. Helps if I'm on the right layer. Alright, let's get the drapery inked. Let's do it on a different layer. All right. Getting there, getting there, getting there. I always like drawing drapery. I love drawing these curves and folds. Usually if I was inking this, I would be throwing in all these crosshatches, but again, the whole point of this piece is to feel kind of soft. So throwing in a lot of cross-hatching there kind of ruins that soft feeling. So I'm just going to stick with some simple lines. And I'll rely really heavily on coloring for like shadows and light and shade. Again, that's something I really like to do with line art. I like showing line and shadow and if I'm going to be honest, I prefer black and white art to colored. Just because there's this kind of weird, gritty realism that kind of comes through in black and white art that I feel like color hides. Not that colored artwork is bad by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just my personal preference. I like the black and white art. I'm really, speaking of which, I saw an announcement recently that Marvel's going to release the Savage Sword of Conan, or maybe just Savage Conan. I forget the adjective, but the new Conan comic, they're going to release a black and white version of the trade paperback. And I am psyched about that. I haven't really bought a Marvel comic in a while. I haven't really bought any mainstream comic in a while. I've been mostly indie comics and manga. You know, black and white art with manga. That's what I've been reading a lot of, but if Marvel's going to release a black and white version of a comic, I am going to pick it up. Alright, I think I'm going to call the drapery done here. So I think the final thing I have to ink for this piece is just getting the lace put in there. So let's do that. For the stockings, I'm not going to be too terribly concerned with trying to get the texture. Pardon me. I'm not going to be too concerned with getting the texture of the stockings to conform to the shape of the leg. The knitting's going to be so tight, it's going to be hard to really notice that the lines are stretching around the body. So what I'm going to do here, I will differentiate the different legs, so I won't do it all in one screen tone. So just in case you're wondering, the reason we're doing that, hey, Green Count, how you doing? I'm doing all right. Inking some commissions here. So the way, awesome. So the way I'm gonna do the stockings here, or at least part of the stockings, is I'm selecting a leg here, and I'm going to put in a screen tone. Don't want a gradient, just a regular screen tone here. But I don't want a dot pattern. So first thing, we can keep that for now. I don't want a circle setting, I want to set it to cross. That should work. Alright, and I think what I'm going to do is slightly change the angle here. It's at 45 degrees. Because I don't want it to match the two legs. I want the two legs to look different. I think that'll work. Because if the two legs, if the pattern matches up, what's going to happen is it's just going to look like one pattern through both legs, and it's going to make it feel flat, and you don't want it to feel flat. So that's kind of my compromise for, since I'm not going to be doing any kind of transform to the tone to make the lines curve around the leg. I'm going to just do 2 different patterns at 2 different angles. That should do the job. Could you rotate the pattern? Yep, you can. If I go back here, in this window here, you can change the angle. Now there is an ability where you can do a mesh transform, and I can kind of mesh transform it to kind of go around the leg. But since this pattern is so tight, it's a lot of work for barely any kind of work, or for the work that's involved. Like, you just get a little bit of a difference. It sounds like you're on it. I think I have at least a tenuous grasp on what I'm doing here. At least I hope I do. Client's gonna be really disappointed if I'm not. Yep, this is Clip Studio Paint. I kind of, once I started, back when it was called Manga Studio, when it was Manga Studio 5, that's when I kind of stopped using Photoshop and just started using Clip Studio Paint for everything. Not that Photoshop is bad by any means. You have more than a tenuous grasp. Well, thanks. I'm glad you think so. Alright, so now we're going to get another screen tone thrown on here. Let's see. We went across here. Alright, so if I've done this right, yeah. So you see, when I kind of zoom out here, let me get rid of the blue here. Even though the tones are the same, the density is the same, because the legs are at, or the screen tones are at different angles, you can differentiate the difference between the 2 legs. I love sketching in Clip Studio, sometimes I'd rather color in Photoshop though. Inking in Clip Studio is superior as well. Yeah, you know, that's the reason why I do everything in Clip Studio now. I just hate inking in Photoshop and drawing in Photoshop. I see a lot of amazing artists do amazing art in Photoshop when it comes to their drawing, but I just can't do it. I don't know if I just don't have the right tools, or like the right brushes for it, or what. But it just feels more natural here in Clip Studio, more like real drawing. And I used to do, before Manga Studio 5 came out, what I used to always do is do all my drawing and inking in Manga Studio and then export it to Photoshop to do my coloring. And then once Manga Studio 5 came out and they had their colors were way better than version 4 was, I just wanted to skip a step. Instead of having to export to Photoshop all the time, I just wanted to just do it all in the same program. And with the new Manga Studio 5 coloring tools, it made it really easy for that. Weird line here. Okay. All right. So now we're getting there. Yeah, I have, and I'm with you there, Zombie Possum. Like, it's better than the default pencil tool, but it's not as good as Clip Studio. I mean, I would even make the argument just about every other drawing software is better than Photoshop when it comes to drawing. Uh, Sketchbook, Procreate, like all those drawing apps, I think are really good at drawing, way better than Photoshop is. Where is my... Here it is. But the main difference though is like Photoshop isn't designed for drawing. A lot of people use it for drawing, but that's not what it was designed for. Where Clip Studio, Sketchbook, Procreate, those were made for drawing. So it makes sense that those are better tools for that. All right, so let's get some lace drawn in here. If I can find where I put my lace brush. I don't remember. I should have my tools better organized here. Oh, there's lace ribbon. We're gonna give this a try. I don't know if I want to use this brush in particular. We're gonna do this on another layer just in case I hate it. It's not bad. Oh, well, thank you so much for the follow, Zombie Possum. I really appreciate it. Good luck with your anatomy coursework there. Actually, on Tuesday, for my stream on Tuesday, I'm planning on doing just very basic anatomy stuff, like body proportions. I'm going to talk about, like, how big the hand is in relationship to the face and how big the arm is, compared to the rest of the body. So I'm going to do some basic body proportions on Tuesday. So those of you guys who are watching, if you guys want to see that, join me. I usually stream on Tuesdays starting around 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time. So join me for that. All right. So now that I kind of have a lace pattern on here, I'm going to just kind of put in just a screen tone to kind of fill in the rest. I'm gonna, instead of a cross pattern here, I'm gonna keep it a dot pattern, but I'm going to lower the frequency and increase the density a little bit. Yeah, I think that's looking good. So, for the those of you guys who are still watching, if you guys have any question, I am here in the chat. If you want to ask what tools I'm using or why I'm doing a technique that I'm doing, please feel free. Now that I keep looking at this, well, I'm sure it's fine. Never mind. Let's see. Go back to my lace here. Get some more lace drawn in here. So with this lace brush, I have to be careful which way I work from. If I start at the right, the lace pattern's gonna go upward. If I start from the left, it's gonna go, or I said it backwards. Hey, sideways. So if I go from the right, the lace pattern is going to be going down. If I go from the right, the lace pattern is going to go up. So I have to be careful which, I can't just willy-nilly throw the lines around however I want here. So I think I'm going to increase the size here. Let's double it. This is going to work. I'm not sure I'm liking that. I'm struggling here. I wanted to have this lace pattern, but not sure how to handle that. Whoops. I went back one too many steps. All right. start with a new layer so we can always undo it. Let's try... Let's see if this will help. That actually might work better. So how's everyone's Saturday so far? I think I'm out of coffee. I'm gonna have to get some of that a little bit later. Too small. I still don't like that, so I'm going to be going through here, doing split screen, coloring a pic on one side, watching you on the other. I do that too. I watch streams or while I draw pretty often. Staying out of the rain. Is it raining sideways? I haven't been outside today. Alright, so here's plan B. I'm not liking how the pattern brushes is looking on her corset. So I'm going to see if I have a screen tone here that will give me a pattern that I want. So far, no good. Oh, we're under a flood watch. Man, I should pay attention more. Textures. That might work. I want something that looks kind of... This kimono cloth might work too. I want something that looks kind of lacy, but repeats itself a lot. This might work too. So I can work it into the pattern. Alright, let's try this. Got my back. Thanks, I know I can count on you. So right now I'm going to do some trial and error, because I don't know exactly how I want to do this, because frankly I do not want to hand draw a ton of lace. So we're going to try a couple different patterns, see how it looks, and if it looks good we'll keep it, and if it looks bad we'll try something else. First thing I want to try is that definitely is not going to work. Oh, my music ended. Hold on. Gotta get myself some new music playing. Let's see. Let's listen to some... What should I listen to? Oh, let's listen to some Unearth. All right. Back to it. Let's try this pattern. Actually, not bad. Not bad. Actually, let me... We're gonna save that one. So what was that? That was the Japanese pattern. Okay, we'll come back to that one. I like that one. Let's try kimono cloth here. No, not quite. All right. Here we go. Got this pattern here. That could work too. What do you guys think? Well, see, Green Cow, I'm not doing, I'm not streaming my music because I kind of want to keep my bandwidth as light as I can while I'm streaming. There is a way to skew the pattern, but first I gotta find a pattern that's gonna work for me. So actually, I'm gonna take a look at this, but I'm gonna turn it into a tone, and that might change how I feel about it. Let's see, frequency 60. Let's change that frequency. See, by changing it into a tone, I can get a little bit more of a lacy feel to it. Ultimately, though, I don't think that's the pattern I want. I think the winner was that Japanese pattern. And we're going to change that to a tone. Yep, I think that'll work. I think that will do for what I'm going for here. Now the whole idea about it, yeah, you're right, Green County. It does look a little flat right now, so we're gonna. I'm not quite sure if we'll. I'm not 100% sure how this screen tone is gonna work with my mesh transform, but we're gonna give it a try here. We might abort this, but we'll see. It's not even... Oh, I think I have to rasterize this first. Alright. Just to allow me to be able to undo, we're going to copy this layer. Make that invisible. We're going to rasterize this layer. Only problem with this screen tone, it's hard to zoom in on it. Okay, so now we're gonna go to mesh transform again. Should work, hopefully. Yeah, I don't think this is gonna work the way I want it to. Yeah, that's not going to work. Using the mesh transform on screen tones is always a hit or miss. But I think... Oh no! Oh, there we go. Okay, good. I think that will do the job. Now the whole point of me kind of finding that right screen tone to put on here is... because when I put in colors, I want the colors to show through. So actually, let me put in a little bit of color. Even though the whole point of today's stream was just to do ink, I figure since we're talking about it, let's throw in a little bit of color. This is actually the third time I'm drawing this character for the client. This is a previous version of the character. So I'm actually going to turn off the highlights here, so I'm left with the flats. That way I can keep the same color palette that I did last time. Alright, so we're going to go here. So again, the whole reason I wanted this screen tone is because, and not have it just be a flat gray, is because the flat gray would cover up any colors I put underneath it. Alright, so we're going to put a color layer right here. And I want the color to show through, just kind of like how lace covers up, but it's still a little translucent. This version's your favorite so far? You mean the tone I put in there? Whoops. It always helps if I have it in the right layer. Or the layers in the right order, I mean. There we go. Clean this up a little bit. Oh, your favorite so far. Oh, I think I realized what you meant there, Sideways. That, your favorite version of the elf. It took me a second to understand what you meant, but I got there. Up a little. Want to clean up this lace pattern a little bit. So hopefully you guys can see how using that screen tone for the lace kind of helps with the texture of the corset here. Corset? Did I say that right? Alright. Doing good. So, actually, I'm going to leave it to you guys at this point. Do you guys want me to keep on coloring this piece, or do you want me to move on to the inking of this piece? I'll give you guys a minute to throw your opinion in the chat. Because the original plan was to ink today, but if you guys rather watch coloring, I'll happily color. It's whatever you guys want. It's one of the reasons I'm here, is for you guys. And while I'm waiting for responses, I'll give you guys a reminder. If you've been liking my artwork, been enjoying it, please give me a follow. It helps me a lot. And if you want to help me even more, there's always my Patreon. You can buy me a coffee. You can donate on PayPal. All the links are down below the video. You like the coloring, especially the skin. And this is a good example. Okay, I can do that. If anyone else wants to chime in, now's a good time to do that. Before I start moving forward. Alright. So I do have an advantage here, since I've drawn this character before. Actually, I just realized I made a mistake. I didn't put her tattoo on her face. Alright, well, let's get to that in a sec here. We can do that in the coloring phase. Alright, so anyway, as I was saying, since I've colored her before, I already have a color palette, so I'm going to just basically copy my own colors. Since that was inking works for me, but if I'll help you complete it for a client, then help you finish it up. Well, both of these are for clients. Both of these are private commissions that I have, so they got to get done eventually. So whether I finish one here on stream and work on another one off air, or I get them both inked on air and color them off air, in the end, it's all the same. So how about we compromise here? How about I color for a little bit, and then we'll go back into inking the other piece. Oh, this character is very pale. Simon, change your mind to coloring? Alright, we can color then. So when you're coloring and you're putting in like your base colors, it's really important to not use black or white. Even if what you're coloring is black or white, you don't want to use those colors. Because technically, from like a color theory standpoint, those aren't colors. Black and white are... They remove color from color. When you add black, you lower the value of the color. If you add white, you lower the saturation of that color. So adding black or white removes color. So when you're coloring, you don't want to use something that is not going to color. Whoops. And that especially goes for when you are doing like shading. Like when you're putting in the highlights or the shadows, don't just pick like black and kind of mix that in with your tone or whatever color you picked. Don't pick just like a darker skin tone. Like if you pick like a brown, just don't pick like a darker brown. You want to mix colors in to create your shadow color. And we'll get to that in a second here. Like, a good example here is, like, her skin is very, very pale. Now, her skin isn't pure white, but it is very, very, very pale. And so, to kind of work with the color palette here, I picked a very light purple. Not only will that look like a very pale color, but it works with her color palette. She wears a lot of purple, so if her skin has this lightish purplish hue, it will still look pale and white without actually literally being white. Pretty good. Let's see. Gotta make sure you save. Alright, so let's see. So her hair is very white. But like what I was saying before, you don't want to just pick white. If I do the eyedropper tool, I get this very, very, very light bluish lavender color here. I said lavender, but when you compare it to her skin, it looks much more blue than purple. Oops. I actually forgot to do our arm down here. Coming along, coming along. We'll come back to her hair in a sec, but let's get her eyes and lips here. Together. Alright, so recently I've been liking to, when I normally ink my comics, I do everything with line work. Like, again, I'll pull in here. So this is some of my comic work. If you look at how I draw the eyes, like I draw in the pupils and the all that stuff. But this comic is black and white. When I'm doing color recently, I like to do everything in the eyes with color. So, let's see, where's my tools? So, I just draw the eyes with the circle, but then I'm gonna put in the irises, or I'm sorry, the pupils, reflections, all that stuff. With color. And I don't use black for the pupils, but I do pick a very dark version of whatever color their eyes are. And I take my airbrush tool and I kind of hit the top of the eyes to indicate the shadow. And then I get a much lighter version. I went a little too hard on that. Okay. No. Thanks. I'm glad you like how I do that. It's the teacher in me. I teach drawing a few days a week, and so it's just in my instinct to just kind of talk through my process and teach while I do it. Alright, so I'm going to hit with a little bit of a lighter purple on the underside here. And then I want to put in the reflections. Reflection on the bottom here. Hmm. How do I want to do this? Alright, and we're gonna... Normally I do all the highlights and shadows after the fact, but since I kind of started the eye, I figured I might as well finish it. Any tips on doing this on a small scale? I draw 8.5 by 11 paper. It's hard to do anything with the eyes. I suppose the only real fix is to draw on a bigger paper. Yeah, well, there's two ways you can do this. Most most artists, period, when they're working traditionally, they work bigger than the final result. So, like, let's say we'll use comics since that's what I'm most well versed in. If, let's say, we're drawing a comic book that's going to be 6 inches by 10 inches, most artists draw on paper that is 10 inches by 15, or more accurately 11 by 17, with the drawing surface being 10 inches by 15 inches. So it gives you lots of room to draw, and then when it shrinks down, it looks really good. What did you say here? When I did the lines, when I did the initial sketch, this drawing was 100% digital. I did everything on the computer here. But when I do the comics, like for instance here, this, I penciled this very small. In fact, let's see. The dimensions, I drew this on paper, penciled it on paper. It was 6 inches by 9 inches, probably a little bit smaller, probably 5 by 8 piece of paper. I penciled it all on this, and then when I scan it in at a really high resolution. I probably scanned it in at probably like 1200 DPI, and then blew it up into this document that's 11 by 17 at 600 DPI, and then I inked it all on top of kind of cleaning up the drawing and inking it at high resolution, giving me enough space to like really zoom in and ink those eyes. Let's see what you got here. Oh, same question. Okay, yeah, so that's how, when I do pencil my comics, I pencil actually smaller because it's faster, but since the pencils aren't the final version, I blow it up on the computer, and then I do the inks and tones digitally much larger. And I have my commissions like this, where I just do it all digitally. Good tips, thanks. You are welcome. I hope it helps. Oops. But yeah, if you're doing all your work, like if you're doing the pencils and inks traditionally, and then you're just coloring digitally, I recommend working much bigger than what the final result's going to be. That'll give you plenty of room to do all the coloring and do all these all the work in the eyes and all that stuff. All right, let's see how this looks. Actually looks pretty good. Although I kind of wish... I think that'll do. I think what I'm going to do here is a very dark color. Just kind of put it right here on the pupil a little bit. Yeah, I think that works. Maybe not. Second guessing myself. You know what, I think I'm going to leave the eyes as is and come back to that if I decide that it needs a little more work. A completed piece for a client was 100% digital. Yeah, Sideways, I just email these to the client. It's actually, when I take private commissions, it's actually very rare that I'll do a traditional piece on paper that I mail to them. There's a couple reasons for that. One, it's less expensive for everyone involved. I don't have to have like paper and inks and actual physical tools, and I don't have to mail it to the client, which is always nerve-wracking because every time I send mail to a client or send art to a client, I'm always afraid that it'll get smashed in the mail. In an email, you don't have to worry about that. It's going to be just fine. And if it's not, I can send it again. There's nothing lost. So, you know, I can save myself some time and money. I can save the client some time and money, and I just do the art digitally and email it to them. I find in my experience, and others might have different experiences than me, I find most of the time the client just wants... It's not about the actual physical piece of artwork, it's about the image. They want the drawing made, they want their original character created and kind of take on a physical form. And that's more important than having an actual physical piece of artwork. So having an email of the image, having a digital copy, a JPEG of the image, for a lot of people is just as good as having the actual physical drawing in their hands. I know a lot of people would probably disagree with that, especially like old school art collectors. But we're in the digital age now, so... Cheeseburger break. All right. I'm not sure how much longer I'm gonna go, but if I'm here, I'll happily have you. And if I'm not done, or I'm done by the time you get back, I hope you had a good cheeseburger. Alright, looks like we got most of the flats in here. I have to, let's see. Let's get the color put in my signature. Again, another thing that you want to make sure you do when you're coloring is don't get too caught up if some color goes a little bit outside the line or doesn't quite meet up with the line. You always want to kind of zoom out to see if you see those holes or if it's going out, because you might if you zoom in you might notice it, but might not be noticeable when you zoom out. And that's it's all about kind of working efficiently. If you're like stressing about getting every line right up to your line art, or every piece of color right up to your line art, you're going to spend a lot of time zoomed in at like 10,000% going around your drawing, and that's just not a good use of your time. Of course, if you zoom out and you see little patches where the color doesn't quite meet the line or goes out of the line, you want to fix that up. But if I zoom like way in here, like you can see how the color of her thumb kind of comes outside the line a little bit, and it doesn't quite meet the line up here. I'm probably going to leave that for now. I might, once I start coloring the hair more detailed, I might have to go back and fix that, but for right now, I'm not going to worry about it. Let's see, but what I do have to do is I have this hair here, or flowers in her hair, and I need to color it, but right now the white is opaque, so I'm going to go up here to edit, convert brightness to opacity, and that turns all the white to clear or transparent. Alright, so let's see. Let's pick a good color. Let's pick this pink for her flowers. So how's everyone doing on this Saturday? I know I keep asking, but we have people joining us and leaving. I want to make sure everyone's taken care of. Let's see how that's going to go. Just realize, because this is on a different layer, I'm going to have to create a different color layer for this, for these flowers. So, let's do that. Right. Good start. Flowers are so complicated, they're a little annoying to color here. Right, almost there. So you guys excited for Avengers? Does everyone have their tickets? I think on next Saturday's stream, I'm going to jump on the hype train and draw some Avengers during the live stream. So if you guys let me know who your favorite Avenger is, it doesn't have to be from the movies, it could be from the comics too. Let me know, and I'll see if I can get them on the list for drawing on next Saturday. Yeah, so excited. I'm a very bad Marvel fan. Not only do I not have any tickets for Endgame, but I didn't even see Infinity War. I know my nerd card's probably going to get revoked as a result. Looks pretty good. So we just have a couple more things to throw in flats, and then we might call it done, or at least the stream done. We'll see. We'll see how I feel, and see how you guys feel. I hope you guys have been enjoying it so far. This isn't exactly what I had planned. I was just gonna go just crazy with the inking. I had pulled up this piece to ink. I pulled up my comic to ink. I had so much inking to do here. But this is fun too. I hope you guys are enjoying it, and I hope I've earned you a follow from you guys if you haven't already. All right, so let's start with I'm a little nervous about doing the exact same color palette as I did in the previous piece, but since I'm just doing flats right now, and it's really easy to change flats, I'm going to just pick the same background color here. This is a little too 80s, I think, so I'll probably end up changing it. But for now, looks like I forgot to color something. Alright, so let's get rid of some of these layers I don't really need anymore. Let's get her to have some color in her eyes, or lack of color in her eyes. Alright. Yeah, I don't know. That blue looks good with that pink, though. I don't know. We'll worry about it later. Let's get her the drapery colored here. And it's at this stage where I have failed at labeling my layers and lose them very easily. Sideways, do you think in the new Avengers movie, you think everyone's gonna die? Or do you think anyone's gonna die? I know there's been a lot of hype, like, oh, Tony's not gonna make it, or Cap's gonna die. People are expecting people to die, but I don't think anyone will. At least no one's gonna die in an irreversible way. Or maybe they'll do, since a lot of those actors have their contracts are up, maybe they'll just use the Reality Stone to just have all new actors play those characters. Let's see, let's keep this purple theme. Let's lighten it up for the sheets here. Actually, let's match it to... Yeah, I know, and I agree with you, Sideways. I don't think anyone's going to die. And I think it's mostly just because they have a lot of kids go to see these movies, and you can make the argument, well, they killed a lot of people with the snap, but it was with the pretense that was going to be fixed in the next movie. So any kid that would be crying their eyes out because Spider-Man died, it's with the idea that that's okay, they're going to go fix it. They're going to go get him back. But I don't think in that final Avengers movie they're going to do anything permanent. I think all the actors that are their contract's up and maybe they're not going to continue, I think they're just simply going to retire. Because there are so many Marvel heroes. There's just so many. And there's a long history of Avengers rosters. So you can get rid of, Cap and Iron Man and Thor. You can start adding in, Beast and Miracle Man. I said Miracle Man. I meant Wonder Man. Get Moon Knight in there. Yeah, Moon Knight. I love Moon Knight. I like Moon Knight because he's like Batman, but unlike Batman, he admits he might actually be crazy. And I appreciate that kind of honesty. Alright, so I think at this point... well, let's see. Hold on. Is that too much purple? What do you guys think? while I wait for your guys' opinions, I'm gonna just clean up the flats a little bit here. There are some parts where the colors went way outside the lines. So no opinion on the amount of purple? So, alright, so Sideways says not too much purple. Or at least that's what I'm interpreting from your comment. Well, the great thing about doing things digitally and doing different layers is I can always change it if I decide I don't like it. Let's give this a save. Alright, so I think I'm getting pretty close to the end. I think I got about 15 more minutes in me. So, what would you guys have me do? Would you rather me continue to work on the colors here, or would you rather me ink for about 15 minutes? What do you think? You know what? I think I made the decision for me. Although, if all of you guys chime in with something else, I'm totally okay with that. But let's get back to inking for just a little bit, because like I said, I'm getting a little hungry. I haven't eaten lunch yet, so I'm gonna go grab a bite. So I don't really want to make a lot of decisions with light and shadow. So I think for just the last 15 minutes here, I think I'm going to go over to this commission, and I think I'm just going to ink it up. All right, inking it is. All right, so this one has a lot of black on it. So I'm actually going to do something a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is start with oh, okay, I see what that is. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start inking the outlines like I normally do. Then with Clip Studio Paint here has a pretty cool tool. It's going to help me with all these blacks. All right, so I'm not going to ink the outline of everything before I show you this. So, but I think I got enough to show you. So I got my basic outlines here, but I have a lot of spot blacks, and I could, you know, kind of by hand, kind of go in like that. And if I wanted more of a sketchy look to this character, I would do that, but I don't. And I could lasso everything and then paint bucket it, and that would totally be okay as well. But Clip Studio Paint has this cool little tool called the Lasso Fill. And all I have to do is just take my this Lasso Fill tool, outline where I want it to be filled, and bam! It helps with the spot blacks by a ton. So you can see that kind of creates a much faster way to ink in lots of blacks. It's kind of combining lasso tool and the fill tool all with one tool, which obviously saves time. So then what I like to do here, once I have a lot of blacks spotted in, I like to add in like kind of the reflections. then I can go back into and then kind of do some feathering on the blacks. First, I want to kind of do some hatchings here. Yeah, so now I can do a little bit of some feathering here. Don't like that. Let's see. All right. This. All right, so no, I'm not talking a lot. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the chat. I'll happily answer. Scenes here. Switch over to my fill here. reflections and highlights, especially on the black, just totally intimidate you. You know, I can see that, but it's really, I find that's the easiest part. The hardest part is finding where like the black should be sitting. But once I know that, and I can imagine where the how the light's hitting the form, the highlights get pretty. At least to me, they seem pretty easy from there. And the great thing when you're working digitally is you can just throw in the black, and then, actually, you know, just like this. So I can just throw in the black. I don't have to worry about not inking where the highlight's going to be. Now, if I was doing this traditionally, I have to take a little bit more care. Although, if you ever look at some old comic book art, like get any of those like artist editions, you'll notice they kind of do this technique, but traditionally, they'll just lay in a bunch of black. Just clean this up just a tad. And then what they'll do is they'll just spot a whole bunch of black, and then they'll get some white ink, and then they'll just go in with the white and just kind of cut out where they think the highlight should be. Now, personally, I don't like any of that. And that's the other good thing about working digitally. If I don't like it, I can always undo it. Now, I know that kind of scares away some people from doing traditional art, the fact that they can't undo. And I always say it's really important to know how to draw traditionally before you do digital. Because digital tools are based off of traditional tools. And if you don't know what these digital tools are basing their effects off of, you're not going to be able to effectively use them. It's looking pretty good. I'm going to add in just a little bit of feathering here. Actually looks pretty good. Not bad for a couple hours of work. We got Eva here, inked in flat colors, and then we got this supervillain original character, about half inked. So, but I am actually starving. I really need to grab some food. So, I think I'm going to call the stream done here. I want to thank everyone who joined me. I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys had fun. I hope you guys learned a thing or two. If you enjoyed my art, if you enjoyed the stream, why not give it a follow? If you want to help me make even more art, I have my Patreon. We have a Ko-fi account you can do one-time donation to, and you got PayPal. You can also donate to that as well. And I just want to thank you guys. I had a great time. This was a lot of fun. And my next stream is going to be Tuesday at 8:45 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to probably go until 11. We're going to be talking about body proportions. So we're going to talk, how many heads tall is a person. We're going to talk how long the arms should be, how long the legs should be on your average adult. So that's going to be what we talk about on Tuesday. It's for Tutorial Tuesday. And then I think my next stream after that, it's going to be Thursday. That might be just long, just me just doing a lot of drawing on Thursday. So I hope you guys can join me for that. And yeah, thanks guys. That's all I can say is thank you. So I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Bye everyone. And actually, before I go, I'm going to read out these names. I've not done this before, but I do want to thank all my patrons that I do have. Angers McBeard, Anthony Dosimo. I'm so sorry if I get any of your guys' names wrong. Brian Gilbert, Brooke Clayton, Charles Pinn, DevDuck01, Elizabeth, Lawrence Winston. Sorry, Lawrence, your name's very long. I didn't put it all here. Lily Avonley. Matt Powell, MC McClure, Quavy Kicks, sorry, Seth Talley, Shadowmacer66, Taylor Wunsty, sorry, and Tony T. Timonen. Thank you guys for being patrons, and if you want to join these guys, there's a link down below. All right. Bye, guys.